Good evening. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your patience while we get situated up here. I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting at 6:06. We have a pledge. Okay. And I'm going to proceed with 2.1, moment of silence. I would like to everybody take a moment and pause and think about our neighbors in El Paso. And then we'll go ahead and I will lead with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We're going to, if you've noticed, we have two governing board members not here tonight. We wish them well. They have some personal business to take care of, so we will continue because we have a quorum. Moving forward to 3.1, address agenda and consider adoption and or make any recommended changes. Ms. Underhill?
I don't have anything.
Ms. Doan? And I do not. We will proceed. Thank you. Staff recognitions. We'll start off with Ms. Danielle Airy. Dr. Jason Reynolds. Welcome.
Second time at the podium.
This is going to be a great experience.
Very exciting, yeah. If you were here for the last one, that was exciting as well. Good evening, President Ceja Martinez, members of the governing board, Mrs. Pallas Thompson, cabinet, and guests. As we all know in the room, that the first day of school was yesterday, and it is one of the most exciting days of the entire year. So I just wanted to highlight a few things. A lot goes into choreographing the first day of school, and we wanted to highlight a few things. First of all, a shout out to our facility and maintenance staff who worked tirelessly all summer to ensure that all 42 schools were ready for the first day. And if you've made your way around the district and looked at some of our schools, they are in fantastic shape. And we have made some incredible improvements to the safety and some of the structures that we have around the district. Our Human Resources Department hired and processed over 200 new teachers across the district, and they were all welcomed at a wonderful event at Centennial High School with the band playing and bringing them in and creating a great energy around that, as well as over 100 classified staff members who were also hired during this summer. So yesterday, Wednesday, August 7th, we kicked off the new school year with more than 37,000 students in Peoria Unified. And for their very first experience, we welcomed over 2,300 kindergarten students into our district. And it is, for those of us who are traveling around the district and for our principals, for our teachers, it's always a toss-up between who is more anxious, our kindergartners or moms and dads who are saying goodbye to their children and really entrusting us with their learning. So transportation was well prepared for their staff. With their staff for the first day, we ran over 700 bus runs in the morning, midday, and afternoon, both arrival and departures, and we transported over 13,000 students on that day, and everyone got to and from school safely, so that's awesome. The food service department reported a great day with their staff serving up over 2,800 breakfasts and 15,000 lunchtime meals. Students enjoyed their favorite menu items and walking around cafeterias. It was fun. It appears as though orange chicken is the highlight of those lunches. So excited for that. Thank you to our food service department. And we put together just a short slideshow to highlight the first day and what that looks like across the district. So let's take a look. That was great. Thank you to our PR department for putting that together. So on behalf of Ms. Pallas Thompson and Cabinet, we want to say thank you to all the teachers, the support staff, the principals, and other administrators around the district for creating a warm and welcoming and engaging learning environment for our students yesterday. And we want to say thank you, most importantly, to our parents and our students for choosing Peoria Unified. They have lots of choices, and we thank them very much for choosing us. So without further ado, I stand for any questions or comments.
All right, well, thank you very much, and welcome to your very first opening of Peoria Unified, also being the 130th year, so welcome. And what was your first thought in our district, seeing how large and how live it was?
Well, I have to say, in my 26-ish years of opening days, yesterday was the smoothest opening that I have ever been a part of. And that was absolutely incredible. That is in large part to the leadership at our schools, both teachers and principals, as well as the work that our district office administrators do with their staff and departments to make sure that we're ready to go on day one.
That's great to hear. Thank you. Ms. Underhill.
Yeah, I just want to echo your, thanks to everybody and how hard you all work, because it's a big thing leading up. I want to really thank the teams that have been making sure that our schools are prepared for safety-wise, because I know that's on everybody's mind. And just, I appreciate all the prep work that everybody does to get ready. I did want to say that I saw the Boohoo Yahoo breakfast, and I let my freshman and senior go to school, and I could have really used one of those for different reasons, But anyway, great job, everybody. So thank you for all your hard work.
Ms. Stone.
Well, seems like the first day of school has gotten a lot more exciting since I went to school. You just went, but I do appreciate all the hard work that everybody has put in to make it a special day for kids and parents, and for teachers and staff. I think that everybody that puts stuff in gets stuff out too. So I do appreciate all the hard work, and very sorry I was unable to attend the thing up at, where was that, CCV, for the teachers, because it is a big deal. The first day of school is a big deal, and welcoming new and returning teachers. I do welcome all our teachers and staff, and I mean everybody. It's a big job. It's a what they say, the kids are our future, the future of this country. So it's a very important job. It's a very, it's a very demanding job too. So I do appreciate each and every one of you. And thanks for that slideshow. That was cool.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Ari.
Well, good evening, President Saya Martinez and members of the board, Mrs. Pallas Thompson. One additional recognition that I bring you this evening, as you likely remember, each year at the very first governing board meeting to start the new school year, we do like to take an opportunity to reintroduce, since they're all very familiar faces to you, the members of the three associations within our district. And we do have three of them that we recognize each year. And I'd like to share their names, and then I know we have one of them that was able to join tonight, one of our presidents. The others, unfortunately, were unavailable to be here. But I'll begin with the co-directors of the Classroom Teachers Association, or CTA, and that's Renee Crawford and Mary Shuitt, who are the co-directors for the CTA organization. Again, they were unable to be here with us. And then also our co-presidents of the Peoria Principals Association, Dana Matisek and Paul Bauer. Neither one of them were able to be there either, but we do have representatives from PEA joined us this evening, and serving as their president once again this year, Trina Berg. And I do want to invite her up here, as I know she has, she's sneaking behind me. I know she has some others she'll want to introduce to you this evening, so if we can give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Ceja Martinez, members of the board, Superintendent Mrs. Pallas Thompson, members and administration. I've used my voice more than the last 2 days, and it's like dying. My name is Trina Berg. I'm a Earth Space Science teacher at Ironwood High School. I'm also once again the returning president of Peoria Education Association. I am super excited that I have my same exec board intact again this year. So introduce my vice president is Frank Eager, ceramics teacher at Sunrise Mountain. Our treasurer this year again is Jessica Batty, also at Sunrise Mountain, special ed. And then our secretary extraordinaire is civics teacher at Centennial High School, Melissa Germscheid. I'm telling you, I'm struggling. I am looking forward to continuing our work with our superintendent, our board, our administration, continuing to build our relationships and improve everything we can to help out Peoria. I'm open to any questions if you have any.
Ms. Underhill, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, we just, again, appreciate all the work that you do and all that, you bring to us to help us learn more about the district and the needs that are happening. What are your plans in regard to like outreach and, kind of growing this year?
Our first and foremost goal is always to try and work on getting an MOU in place, to work on our H policy and getting that established in our district. We are looking forward to working. We have an override election that is going to be huge. We know that we will have an upcoming bond election, and those are always going to be priorities for us as well.
Excellent, thank you.
Ms. Stone?
I don't have anything further, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stone.
Thank you very much. Again, I know this is an unpaid position, so the fact that you can bring insight, give us, the board, an opportunity to review the information, we do appreciate it and we look over it, so thank you.
Absolutely, anytime. Thank you. Have a good evening.
No more staff recognitions. Ms. Linda Pallas Thompson, would you like to jump in now?
Sorry. Good evening, Mrs. Sayas Martinez. No, I do really have nothing except to say it's been a very busy and exciting week, and I can't believe it's Thursday. But we're good. The teams in the field are amazing, and I need to shout out the team in this building. They'd never get enough credit. I have to really give it to the cabinet here, right across the board. Every step of the way they have been here, and it is such a positive tone that I'm just delighted to work with all of them. So thank you. You guys were amazing, so thank you.
Thank you. And we'll start off with board recognitions. Ms. Underhill?
I just wanted to, again, thank the staff for all that they did in regard to the opening of school ceremony. I thought that was really cool, having never been a part of it, because when I was teaching, we didn't have that, and I wasn't teaching last year, but I thought that was a really cool event. I appreciate the partnership very much with CCV, and I look forward to hearing other people's comments on it so we can continue to make that event, happen each year. But thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Stone?
I don't have anything, thank you.
I do have three. One of them, Dr. Reynolds, you've already addressed, all our employee groups that help meet the needs of an awesome first day for our students, because we're here to serve them. And we always say welcome back, but there are a group of employees that never leave. And I want to make sure that we have not forgotten you, and we appreciate that you guys came back on the first day when we really need you, and that you showed up the next day and you continue. So all employee groups, thank you, especially for those who never left. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge our PR department, Ms. Ari, and your team for the opening ceremony, finding a keynote speaker, Ms. Sonia Manzano Maria, who serves on as one of the leading Latinas in the Sesame Street. For my years of experience in the Peoria School District as a student and as an employee, it takes courage to bring a keynote speaker who looks or may have different stories like some representative of our students, including discussing educational gap or that their parents are migrants. And for that to be in front of all our staff and community at top of the, how we started this year in the 130th year, thank you from the bottom of my heart and your team for putting that together. Thank you. I only had one recognition. I had a fifth grader email me She had the courage to email me and share her positive experience about her first day of school. She said that she loved her teachers. Her ask was to be, well, she didn't use this word mindful, but I'm going to paraphrase, of lunch times as we get through the busy day and we rush into the cafeteria. The children really love enjoying the orange chicken if they can have the full amount of time to do so. Teachers, take care of yourself as well, as nutrition is just as important for all staff members. So thank you for that fifth grader at Foothills Elementary for emailing me. Okay, moving on to public comment. I do not see any additional green slips. Gives the audience and the public an opportunity to address the board. Okay. Moving on to consent agenda item. Governing board, are there any more items you would like to pull, or any items, I should say? Ms. Underhill? No. Ms. Doan?
I would like to pull 6.6.
Okay. And I would like to pull 613. Please, let me just make sure. It only takes me once to learn. 6.6, consideration to approve PRO's statement for the November 5th, 2019 Maintenance and Operations Override Election Voter Informational Pamphlet. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And then 613, qualified evaluators for 1920 school year. Perfect. I will need a motion for approval of the consent agenda item, excluding those two items.
I move that we approve the consent agenda excluding those two items.
I'll second. We have a motion by Ms. Underhill and a second by myself to approve the items consent agenda excluding 6.6 and 613. Proceed to vote. Anything else?
No.
Votes?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
It didn't come through.
All right. Thank you very much, and we have two absent. Moving on to the two items that were pulled from the agenda, which we'll now move to. It was 6.6, it will now go in the area of 7, removed consent agenda items. So we'll go ahead and discuss 6.6, a pro statement for the November 5th, 2019 Maintenance and Operations Override Election Voter Informational Pamphlet. Ms. Doan?
Okay, I think everybody in here is aware that I voted against the 15% override. I'm also aware that the governing board as a whole voted for it, and that if I vote against this tonight, it will not pass because there are only two. So I think that would be, okay.
For clarification, Ms. Doan, we do have a quorum, so if
2 against 1.
2 against 1, it would
Good.
pass and move forward, so.
All right, because, okay. I'm not gonna vote no on this. What I'm trying to say, and not very well, is that I was for maintaining the 13%. And, I do have some problem with this, but I'm not going to go against the will of the board in putting this out as a pro statement. But I just want to be on record that my vote would be for maintaining the 13%. So with that said, I will not vote against it.
Thank you, Ms. Doan. Ms. Underhill?
I don't have.
I appreciate, Ms. Doan, you having the courage to say and speak to that. I know you support our students
I do.
and our staff, and reiterating that you would support an override. The conversation then becomes the risk in passing or failing, and so you made your stance. We appreciate that. So at this time, I will need a motion to approve or not approve what is presented.
I will move to approve should we still call it 6.6?
7.1.
7.1, all right.
I will second that. So now we vote. Would you like us to do a voice vote? Okay.
Oh,
Motion passes unanimously with 2 absent. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item would be 7.2. I've requested to pool 613 qualified evaluators for the 2019-2020 school year. There is a list, and it's just for the importance and the role of our administrators and support personnel who take on this role to approve or to provide feedback to our staff. According to the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development, so ASC.org, they recently made a statement that said, according to the U.S. Department of Education, 17% of our newest teachers leave the classroom within 5 years. So the people on this list have a tremendous responsibility, not only to use the evaluation tool as a growth mechanism, but be very careful when providing criticism, avoiding laundry lists, and they focus on targeting praise and validation that they are valued employees throughout this process and staff that we need, every single one of them. So thank you for taking on this huge role, and I respect everybody who has to go through this process on this list. So I move to approve the qualified evaluator list for 2019-2020 school year.
I'll second.
We have a motion by myself and a second by Ms. Stone. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda items 8.1, consideration of administration appointments. Dr. Carter Davidson.
There it goes. Good evening, President Sal Martinez, members of the board, Ms. Palace Thompson, and guests. Tonight I come before you to ask for your blessing or your approval of an appointment for principal over at Apache Elementary School. So you might be wondering how that occurred now that we've already started the school year. We had a few weeks ago one of our administrators choose to retire, and therefore that allowed Ms. Palace Thompson to move forward with some changes from an administrative school level. And so tonight we're asking for the final approval and allowing this gentleman to serve in the role officially and to lead that school forward. So I'll stand certainly for a motion perhaps, and then just read a little bit about that individual.
Excellent, thank you. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I move that we approve the administrative appointments.
I second. We have a motion by Ms. Underhill, a second by myself. Oh, I was reading the paragraph. Yes, I did. I was so entrenched in. Thank you for calling us out.
Wonderful, but
Thank you very much.
thank you, Governing Board. It's an honor tonight to recommend, and thank you for your approval of Mr. Darren Schoolcraft to be appointed to the position of principal at Apache Elementary School. Mr. Schoolcraft was hired as a physical education teacher on August the 1st of 2013 at Desert Harbor Elementary School, and he had served in a previous district prior to that. Mr. Schoolcraft has since served as assistant principal at Sundance Elementary and most recently at Zuni Hills Elementary School. Mr. Schoolcraft earned his bachelor's degree in 2009 and his master's degree in leadership in 2015, all from Northern Arizona University. As Mr. Schoolcraft comes up and he's ready for any hard questions that you choose to give him tonight, he is here with his wife, Ashley, who is a first grade teacher with us in Peoria at Desert Harbor, his brand new son, Brendan, and his mother-in-law in support, Debbie, in the background, as well as friends and other family members. So thank you, and Mr. Schoolcraft, come on up, sir.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Doan, would you like to start us off?
Not really.
Okay.
No, welcome aboard. That's a pretty big job. It's a lot of responsibilities, so I trust the people that know you and have the confidence that you will do this, and so congratulations and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Underhill.
Well, thank you for, working your way up in Peoria and just, continuing to move and grow and be a leader. We appreciate that, and we're very excited to have you, and welcome to your son, and congratulations. And man, you guys, a teacher and a principal like you guys, but you can do it. I just know that's awesome. So congratulations and welcome. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much as well. That community in Apache is very engaged, robotics club, special programs. What is your first train of thought on how you're going to dive in to continue that engagement?
Well, President Martinez, members of the board, Ms. Pallas-Thompson, my first thing as I've gotten to Apache is I have invited the community, welcomed the community. We had a great Meet the Teacher night with no power, but it went off without a hitch. After that, the community loved it. So my ultimate goal right now is to continue the vision and the hard work that's been going forward. The staff has been amazing, the students, the community, they've been amazing. So I plan to just continue the excellence that's been going on and slowly start to integrate some of my ideas and having some fun and continue that.
That's excellent, and you obviously can monitor and adjust with a day like that. I'm not looking at anybody in particular. And coincidentally, you come on a day when we're going to talk about evaluation tools, and I just brought up the role and the importance with your background in physical education and the strong focus on driving student success. Where do you continue to focus or want to focus your professional growth in driving instruction?
President Martinez, members of the board, Ms. Pallas-Thompson, my first focus for myself is to understand the gifted program that we have over at Apache. It's a great program, and I was a gifted student myself, so I'm looking for those strategies to continue to grow those teachers. That's the direction that I'll take first. Beyond that, good instruction to me is good instruction. It doesn't matter if you're in the PE realm, the choir realm, the arts, the first grade, kindergarten, all of that. Good instruction is good instruction, and we have amazing teachers at Apache. So I look to just coach them. I've told my teachers my role, coming from my background, is I'm a coach first. And Kobe Bryant had a coach. Michael Jordan had a coach. Those coaches weren't better than they were. So my goal is to just be that bird's eye view, give them ideas, give them feedback, positive praise, and continue to coach them along to help our students ultimately learn, because that's what it's all about, is the student success and the student learning.
Well, thank you very much, and to your family as well, because it is a family affair. I encourage you, as you go through this process and have a new set of eyes on it, tell the administration as well as the board, how can we do it better? So thank you so much, and good luck this year.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
And usually this is the time you go celebrate and have ice cream. Yes, you're good. And that is a great transition to the employee evaluation tool 8.2. Dr. Davidson and Mrs. Marla Hobbs, welcome back. The last time you were here, we had a safe space here that we worked through, and we are happy that you guys all came back and continued this conversation, so thank you.
Thank you also, President Ceja Martinez, members of the board. Ms. Pallas-Thompson, we are back again tonight to certainly seek approval of our teacher observation tool. You'll see through our slideshow that we certainly listened that evening, took your feedback, and we've had further conversations for sure, and come back tonight with some ideas and really trying to lay out where our hopes are and where we want to go and where we hope to be in a few short years. So thank you for your time. We'll go ahead and move on here. Once I can get, there it goes. We always like to start off just highlighting how the things that we do tie into our strategic plan. And again, our teacher observation tool pretty much can connect to any one of those 4 categories. As we continue on, this proposed change to the tool came in June, as Ms. Ceja Martinez discussed. It was tabled at the time for different recommendations. Those recommendations that we really looked at were to revisit the titles and domains of the indicators, proficiency levels, and to continue to work with our staff to improve the tool. And I took from that conversation as well to make certain that we include our staff as we move into the tool, that it's not a dead document, that it's a living document that we continue to work through with our staff. Where are we now? Am I jumping over your slide, Ms. Hobbs? That's all right. I'll move to the side. Marla?
So where are we now? We have continued to have dialogue around the new tool. We've had some dialogue with our administrative teams, as well as our teacher teams, as well as our governing board. So we've also had our instructional coaches and our new administrators have been trained on this tool through our work with Larry Degnan. And also all of our administrators were trained on the new tool, specifically around lesson design on July 25th. We're taking this process as a phased approach. First, we would like to begin using this new rubric while providing ongoing training this year to administration and coaches to improve their instructional leadership. We will also be eliciting feedback again from administrators and teachers to continually improve the tool. Phase 2 would be reconvening our committee to begin the conversation on the evaluation scoring process. As we spoke previously, our scoring process has been a little bit lopsided, and we want to really make sure that we fix that. We're going to look for ways that we can also garner feedback on how we can effectively improve that overall process. Phase 3 would be aligning our new evaluation process to performance pay. And we also need to modify our other observation tools as well. So measuring our success, we are measuring how our administrators are being able to effectively and successfully analyze a lesson. We're also conferencing, watching and providing feedback on their conference skills, collecting data on their instructional skills, and completing instructional coaching. So we are looking at how well our teachers and our administrators are able to have those conversations to make meaningful change in the classroom and help support our teachers in continually improving. So we looked at our student achievement data with these coaching conversations, and we hope that our student achievement data will start to show that we are rising in our student achievement because our administrators are effectively coaching our teachers, and our teachers are improving. Thus, our students are being more successful. So at this time, we stand for any questions or discussion items.
Okay. Ms. Stone, we'll go ahead and start off with you. Anything, would you like to, well, first of all, would you like to start us off? Come back.
So when would you begin phase 1?
Tomorrow morning, Ms. Doan.
Yes, okay. And I'm sorry, I can't remember from last time, what was the weigh-in of the teachers on this new tool?
Last year, I believe it was late fall, early spring, we invited a variety of teachers from our associations, as we learned about tonight, different related, and I wouldn't say related service people, but people from different teaching groups, junior high, high school, elementary, Ms. Stone, as well as different administrators, to have a real nice mixed group of employees to weigh in on the former, or the current model, I should say, where we'd like to go. And really, the conversation was all around what makes up quality instruction.
Right. Right. So, I was pretty impressed with some of the streamlining and more plain language. I think there's a big deal to having more plain language in as much as you can with the things that we do, because it's just that much easier to get through when the language is very clear. Now, as far as the student achievement data, the data that we get from all that, it is so hard to compile all that and what's directly in correspondence with these things. But we have to do everything in our ability to get that, and this is one of the tools. I think I'm pretty happy with it as far as the new tool goes. I do want to continue examining the measures like we're doing, like you had said. So that's about all I have for tonight.
Ms. Underhill?
I think it's great that we're continuing to kind of look at this. And like we talked about the last time, for me, it's less about the tool and more about the process that we're using. And I think that you can see like it's all kind of, coming along together through looking at the PLC process and that kind of thing. One of the questions I had was, you said that you had a discussion where you talked about lesson plan development, et cetera. Can you just speak to that a little bit and how that turned out and what the expectations are there, et cetera?
Certainly, Mrs. Underhill. A good lesson plan has an objective, and it's aligned to state standards. So that part has not changed. We have not asked our teachers, we've always asked our teachers to do that. We want them to take a close look at with their sub-objectives and actually looking at the process that goes through in order for a student to master a concept. So we'd want them to look at what the chunking of the lesson would look like, and along the way have some checks for understanding. So we want them to start with a simple idea to start out with when encouraging them to start thinking about something, and then move to the most complex task and the highest level of checking for understanding at the end, which is ultimately their learning target or the objective.
Great, okay. And is the plan kind of, as we sort of look at some of these model lesson plans and that kind of thing, and I know everybody kind of does their own thing, but at last time we had talked about that we don't currently have sort of a centralized bank to share, materials and that kind of thing. Are we still looking at some of that so that we can do less recreation of lesson plans and focus more on instruction and that kind of thing?
Well, we actually are, Mrs. Underhill. We are looking at lesson plans and having our principals and our assistant principals looking at lesson plans to help them provide feedback to our teachers. We're not going along the lines of having necessarily a specific template that everyone has to use. However, we will have some templates available so that teachers choose to do that and choose to use that, especially our newer teachers when they start doing the daunting task of looking at how they're going to get from point A to point B. So we certainly can offer that. One of the dialogues that we've talked about in professional development in relationship to lesson design is showing them some exemplar lessons, lesson planning in their actual professional development time, specifically correlated to whatever their content area is. So for example, a science lesson is more of an inquiry process, so that might look a little bit different than maybe an English lesson on how to write a 5-paragraph essay.
That's great. And then, let's see. Oh, the last area, we just kind of briefly touched on it at the last, when we had this last discussion, but was just, and I think it really fits within the whole PLC process, but the idea of having some component of our evaluation look at, I guess what I was saying is it feels like sometimes it's very isolated when you're being evaluated and yet you're working in a PLC. So just, kind of looking at how do we look at the progress made in the PLC and build some of that into the evaluation, so there's kind of that cohesive structure in there around evaluating teams and helping us be motivated that way.
Right, I absolutely agree, Mrs. Underhill. And actually, to make sure that there was a correlation and our teachers could see the PLC process, we actually put in each of our domains the questions. So like, for example, planning and preparation, which is domain 1, it actually asks in there, what do I want my students to be able to learn and know and do by the end of my lesson? So those are some things that we certainly can consider. And also in professional responsibilities, there is a piece in there that kind of speaks to the PLC process, but I think maybe that's some good feedback that we can take back to the committee in future meetings.
Great. All right, thank you very much.
Again, thank you for taking the extra time, Ms. Homs, Mr. Degnan, who's not here tonight, and Dr. Davidson, as well as other administrators who had the courage to email the board or email myself or speak to me one-on-one to truly understand. And the intent is to move our district and move our students forward. After going through that process, it enlightened me on a couple things. That the presentation that the board received at that board meeting was half of the picture, and the other part of the conversation that the board missed was, and what's impacting those highly effective scores is the scoring module. So it's great to see that you have inputted a phasing proportion of how do we distribute the points so that we're not inflating a result of a teacher's instruction or underserving a teacher's growth opportunities. So including those phases will be crucial in that as we continue our live document. The feedback piece I heard, and I appreciate that you acknowledge getting more feedback. I refer to them as road shows, where we also include feedback from our students, where they have an opportunity at their lunchtime and we're facilitating and saying, hey, teachers are getting evaluated on classroom engagement. You're the target audience. What are we missing here? I would like to see the students part of this conversation, as well as the parents, and not just our typical PTSO parents, which they have a ton of advice, they have different lenses, but also those who go to the science fairs, because they're coming with the mindset, oh, I'm gonna learn science, and this is the parent part, professionalism of what my teacher should be evaluated on, and this is what we're missing, or this is what is considered excelling. That those for me are the two voices that we're really missing, are the student and the parent, and I would like to see that to continue. The last comment is the measurement piece. As we continue as a governing board, making decisions financially and in administration, and we consider measurable outcomes, taking a holistic approach on our whole strategic plan. So if we're doing a teacher looking at this evaluation tool from a stewardship of resources, do we need to spend any money or reallocate funds, and how efficient are we with those funds associated with the evaluation tool, and so on, with communicating with the community. We've changed our evaluation tool. Here's the direction. Here's the outcomes that we've had, along with safety and well-being, student success. So I would like to see the board have a measurement aligned to each of the strategic plan. So going forward, we're looking at a holistic approach of moving the dial. But thank you very much for taking that extra time and the feedback of the board, teachers, and we will continue to hear from the students and parents. At this time, Ms. Underhill?
I just had one more question, and it was on one of the slides that says that you're looking at measuring the administrator's ability to instructionally coach teachers. And I know one measurement is obviously student data, but sort of what are some of the other measurements? How do you anticipate doing that?
Well, part of those of us that supervise schools is we're also coaches. And Mr. Degnan is working specifically with us to make sure that we are on our A game and we understand instructional coaching, and just so that we can go out and provide feedback to our building level leadership, so that that's another measure of success to try to see where they started out and where they grow throughout the year.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, at this time, I do need a motion. It's an actionable item.
I move that we approve the evaluation tool for the upcoming school year.
And I will second that. I do have one question. Last thing, Dr. Davidson, what support do you need from the board going forward as we go through this process?
Good question, President Ceja Martinez. Certainly support, right? I mean, and support not just to rubber stamp, we've used that term here, but to ask the questions of us as your leadership, but also of our staff as we move into a change process, right? It's one thing to change an observation tool. It's another thing to work with our staff and to grow them and grow their skill sets. That's not always easy, especially if you are asking someone to do something different. I think as we move into phase 2 and start looking at the evaluation system as a whole and its connection to performance pay, its connection to teacher evaluation labels, right, effectiveness labels, I believe it might raise the level of concern right across our district and our teaching staff. What does that mean to me, right? So we might have a lot of conversations and probably really good conversations, but I just think being prepared to support that dialogue will be critical.
Thank you very much.
And Mrs. Cejas Martinez, can I
Yes.
add in and thank you both for all the work that you did on this. Part of the support, as you're asking, I think we'll start on our retreat, where as we look at the strategic plan, if we focus the plan on especially student success, what do we mean by that? What do we want? And how are we going to evaluate that? And John will nod at me with that. That will keep the process going. And you'll be the key in making it happen. So, thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. So please go ahead and please cast your vote. And Mr. Sandoval and Ms. Pingerly are not here, so I get to use all their space.
Spreading out, aren't you?
Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Borrowing Ms. Pingerelli's chair. All right, we're going to the next item, 8.3, the Foundations Phonics Program K3. Welcome back, Ms. Hobbs.
Evening, President Ceja Martinez, members of the Governing Board, Superintendent Pallas Thompson. We're here this evening to provide you an overview of the Foundations Phonics Program and provide you with our next steps in implementation for the Foundations Program in the upcoming 1920 school year. I'm joined here this evening with Ms. Jennifer Dimbakowitz, who has joined our team and specifically is going to be focusing on our K-3 phonics program. So our journey in this process. So as we began our fall chats and our employee chats last year, we heard a resounding voice of our teachers, and our superintendent responded. They wanted a phonics program because, as you know, 15 years ago, we had gone away from Spalding, and we never really replaced that resource, that phonics instructional resource after that. So our teachers were really clamoring, and those teachers that, especially that were new to teaching reading, were really, I think, left without a lot of resources to be able to do that and do that effectively. So we knew that that was an issue, and our superintendent responded by saying we will get a phonics program in the hands of the teachers by Christmas break. So we worked feverishly, and thanks to our business department as well as our curriculum team, we were able to fulfill that goal of having the phonics program in the hands of our teachers by Christmas break. So in order to decide on a resource, though, we assembled a committee of stakeholders to review presentations from different companies and to settle on a decision. So we went into this with a lot of voices. We got feedback from a lot of stakeholders. We had teachers, we had reading interventionists, content coaches, principals, district leadership. So we didn't make that decision in isolation, but overwhelmingly and unanimously, our committee picked the Wilson Foundations program. So the purchasing of our new Foundations program aligns to our district's strategic plan in two areas, both student success as well as stewardship of community resources. I wanted to tell you a little bit about our phonics program that we purchased. Foundations was pioneered by Samuel Orton and Anna Gillingham more than 80 years ago. It's a multi-sensory teaching program that allows students to use their hands, eyes, and ears and voices together to help learners understand and internalize what is being taught. Based on their clinical experience and years of teaching research, with, especially in the area of dyslexia, Barbara Wilson was actually the one that became convinced that this approach was not only critical, but necessary to teaching struggling readers. So Mrs. Wilson began building on the Orton-Gillingham process and developed a system that could be made available to all teachers and that could be utilized in any classroom. So as you know, reading is not just an enjoyable pastime, it's an absolute necessity. And literacy is required for a secure and productive future in today's global economy, but it's also essential for a life rich with possibilities and personal fulfillment in our Peoria students. So Foundation serves as a prevention program to help reduce reading and spelling failure. It's an integral part to a multi-tiered system of support which you're seeing before you there. It provides research-based instruction in Tier 1, which is the core, and it also provides Tier 2 intervention for those students who are struggling in the area of reading or have at risk for reading difficulties. It also allows students requiring a more intensive program to be identified early, which we know the earlier you can identify a student and begin triaging that with interventions, the more that they're going to be successful in the years to come. The principles of Foundation's instruction are that it's explicit, you learn through modeling and by doing. It's systematic because it's sequential and cumulative, and students are active participants in the multisensory instruction of motor memory and learning. There's a lot of repetition. If you've ever watched a phonics lesson in Foundations, you'll know that our kids are up and they're active. They're not just sitting and getting, and they're all up there, and there's an opportunity for them to use their body and move around, which is critical. It allows teachers to progress monitor through formative assessments, and those are the assessments that we'll be having our teachers in K-3 use this year, and also have an integrated assessment program that can identify areas of strength and weakness in a student's reading ability. So when teachers identify students who are struggling, Foundations provides the teacher with intervention materials and tools to specifically work on skill deficits, either one-on-one or in small group. And our reading interventionists have also been trained on a Tier 2 intervention for those most at-risk and most struggling students. One thing that I know parents and teachers alike will be very excited is that we know that reading is important, but writing and spelling together also provide students with a well-rounded understanding of our English language. So Foundations provides direct and systematic instruction in uppercase and lowercase letter formation in both manuscript and cursive, which is linked to the foundational scale of letter sound for both reading and with spelling. Conventions of standard English are also for common spelling patterns, and then spelling of irregular words or frequently confused words like there, and there. I'm sure we always have to think about which word that is and which way to spell that. So, and how many of us have had to do that? So in capitalization and punctuation, on reference skills also through the use of dictionaries and multiple meaning words and affixes. The production and expansion of complete sentences of varied kinds in response to prompts are also taught through this program. So Peoria Unified's implementation. We did a mid-year soft rollout, so we did put the materials in the hands of our teachers, let them explore. We trained a number of teachers in the early spring. I know Mrs. Underhill, you attended one of our trainings. And we did that purposefully because we wanted them to get familiar with what was in the materials without having to implement the materials with fidelity quite yet. So all of our teachers have had the opportunity now to become Foundations trained, and our new teachers will be trained in September as well. So our teachers were also provided the opportunity to become Foundations facilitators. So these individuals are uniquely prepared to aid the support of other teachers, so they'll have somebody on their campus that will be able to help them. And also, we had 34 teachers that asked to be facilitators. We were only able to do 18 at this point in time, but we certainly will be adding more as we continue to go. So here are our Foundations facilitators. As you can see, we have a number of them at each level. And so these teachers will represent general education, their resource and reading interventions, as well as our K-3 content coach, Mrs. Dimbakowitz. So since we're such a large organization, providing intensive coaching will be paramount to the success of this program. Our facilitators will work closely with 6 of our schools throughout the next school year, and these schools will be considered demonstration sites, and you see them there before you. They had at least 3 individuals who will be completing facilitator certification. Once per quarter, a trainer will come to those sites to work with the facilitators, and our grade level teams will also be able to have the opportunity to watch a model lesson by one of our trainers. And to be a facilitator is no joke. It takes an entire school year. There's a lot of rigorous work that goes into that, so it's not something that you should embark on lightly, and you'll have a lot of opportunities to model lessons and get feedback while you're also mentoring your peers as well. So the training process, during the week of August 19th, K-3 teachers who are new to our district will receive the training. Administrators will also receive additional training. They have a sheet called Look-Fors, so our principals and assistant principals know what they should be looking for in a Foundations lesson. And if they have questions, they have reading interventionists that have had intensive training, as well as our instructional coaches and any facilitator that might be on the campus. So we have lots of opportunities for people to support one another through this process. Our foundation sessions during PD time, we will have opportunities for our teachers to interact, to plan, to understand more deeply. There's videos. All of our teachers will have the opportunity to be able to go on the Wilson Foundation's website, watch teachers model lessons, see kids in action to see what it's supposed to look like in their classroom, and we'll be doing some of those in our district days as well. So at this time, Jennifer and I are here for any questions or discussion items you might have.
Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and start with Ms. Underhill.
Yes, I think it's great, and it was really neat to go to the training, and there's a lot of like manipulatives, and it's a really good program. I just had a question about the assessment. So you mentioned that that's going to be part of the assessment plan. Is that replacing something? Is it like a one-to-one kind of thing with the children? What does that look like?
Thank you for that question. We are going to be doing a replacement of our current benchmark assessments in our K-2 classrooms. We had those quarterly for our teachers, and this will replace that. It's going to give them a lot of great data that can really help right off the bat.
Awesome. I'm just glad to hear that. So. And then the other question I had is the PD that'll be offered throughout the year, are you breaking that up at all by grade level? Because I know like teaching phonics or Foundations in 3rd grade is very different than kindergarten. So
That's a wonderful question. We are definitely going to try and hit each grade level so that we offer a kindergarten training for kindergarten teachers, 1st grade, and then a level 2 training for our 2nd and 3rd grade teachers as well, so that
Great.
they get it at their needs to best help instruct.
excellent. That's awesome. And then just the last thing is just to explain the demonstration sites, because I understand we're rolling this out across the district, but what is kind of the focus of the demonstration site, and then what happens in year 2 from there?
Definitely, well, with our demonstration sites, since we have the 6 of them, we'll have teachers that are getting extra training. They're going to have the Wilson facilitator in the classrooms helping. It's going to be great for our PLC lessons so that everyone is involved, having great learning conversations, watching and continuing on. So with our sites, the expectation is as they are modeling and getting great instruction, we could possibly bring others in to view and get some great feedback and to go ahead and take that back to their site so that they can continue to learn and grow as well.
Great. All right. Thank you so much.
Just to piggyback onto that question, we had asked a ton of questions about Foundations, and I'm looking over my comments. There was a point where we've highlighted Ira Murphy trained facilitators, and you've also emphasized how much work and rigor it takes to understand Foundations. Can you help me understand why Ira Murphy is not on one of those model lists, and why aren't we using them to help facilitate growth?
Absolutely. Mrs. Seah Martinez, we had two schools that, one I'm very familiar with. I was the principal there. 6 years ago, we selected foundations for Marshall Ranch. And then a few years ago, I want to say about 3 or 4 years, Ira Murphy also embarked on that process of foundations. And so they have one facilitator so far that is homegrown that through Murphy. But we want to get more facilitators. One for an entire organization as large as ours would not quite adequately do that, and she's also a reading intervention specialist there. So she would, she's kind of tied to the students at Murphy and making sure that they're successful as well. And going forward, we'd like to continue adding some demonstration sites till eventually we have a cadre group that can go out and help that. And one of the things we did with a lot of our teachers, if they wanted to, or the principals, I know many of them did, is they went over and watched lessons in action at both Marshall Ranch and Ira Murphy so that they could see truly what that looked like and see the fun that the kids have during the lessons. So,
Excellent, thank you. Ms. Stone?
I can't tell you how excited I am about getting phonics back in school. I'm just so excited. But I was curious about how are we involving the parents in this?
that's a great question, Mrs. Stone. One of the things that we are encouraging our schools to do is have, when they have their curriculum night or their open houses, get a group of their kids together and have them go through the lesson. One of the things that the students get the opportunity to do is maneuver the tiles on the boards. And so everyone's actively involved so that parents would be able to see their child in action doing those things. Certainly we encourage reading, so we'll be continuing that, encouraging reading at home. And the students, one of the parents, in fact, a few years ago when we first launched this at Marshall Ranch, said, my child is doing this while they're reading. Well, what they're doing is they're tapping out the syllables so that they can understand what the word means, and then you read it after you've tapped it out. So just sending some of those pieces of information. We certainly have some research and some information specifically for parents. I've also presented at one of the parent organization dinners as well. So hopefully it'll catch on, and we certainly can't do enough to make sure our parents are understanding that they're partners in this with us.
Right.
And we want them to understand what the children are learning through this program. So
That's really good. I've got my almost 4-year-old, and she's all doing her ABCs and going crazy with stuff like that. And the phonics, I'm really excited about that because it is such an open door. It is such, and it's so necessary for our young people. I really appreciate this, and I just want to. You know what? This is kind of a little. Why was the decision made to remove the Spalding? Do you have any idea? I know you weren't, but I'm just like, what was that? Does anybody know what that was?
I could give it an idea.
You got an idea?
the only thing I can remember, I mean, because I was around then, is that there was a bit of a cost at the time for some of the paper, and some of the teachers, I think, at the time felt that it was kind of too traditional and didn't meet the needs of all of our students. It was very scripted, and it was very much the same thing every single day. Foundations is like that, but it continues to build. So I don't know, Mrs. Pallas-Thompson, if you have a different answer for that, but those were the things that I remember that some of our teachers began to think that it wasn't
It threw
meeting
out
the
the
needs of
baby
our.
with the bathwater, is
Correct,
what they
yeah.
did.
But we've got a phonics program now, and I will tell you that
Excited about that.
our teachers that have gone through the training are ecstatic. I went to a PD session that we had just to start the school year, just a refresher of some of the components of foundations, and I was stopped numerous times by teachers saying, thank you so much for doing this. So it is something that we desperately needed, and I think it will take our district a long way.
I do too, and I think too that, I mean, we have our young people coming into school now. They have to be engaged at a more physical level in a way because their life is like that now. It's not the same as it was. You know, when I was a kid, it was like you sit down and do this, and you just sat there for an hour or two and did it. You know, but it's children have a different way now. They're being raised differently. The world is different. So I like the full hands-on experience for them. So I appreciate this, and I'm very excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Echoing my governing board's comments, along with all the questions they had, I do want to highlight one, our community had asked multiple times in different forums, where is our phonics? And here is something we can speak to, and I would hope that we continue to share that, broadcasted, that Peoria Unified has a solid phonics program. We also asked the finances to this piece of the conversation. Roughly $1.1 million was an investment, which equates to about $149 per student in that age group from kindergarten to third grade. So we are taking this investment into directly to our student. Where I have concerns is we constantly, well, I have heard the P in Peoria should be for people, but we want to be mindful that it doesn't become programs. And when I asked for delineating how much is for the program and how much are we spending on the people, because the program's not going to teach the children, I was a little taken back of we've invested $1,116,454.64 as of the email dated June 27th of this year, and we've only spent $14,994 on professional development, which concerns me. And
Have a reason for that?
And I hear and I'm listening about the importance of people and investing, and we're going to move in that direction. As the board consistently approves travels and conferences and having core reading K-3 as a priority, I would like to see, from my perspective, more and a larger investment in people, because that does not sit well.
Mrs. Ceja Martinez, one of the beautiful things that happened was because we did make such a large investment in the materials, I was put in contact with one of the senior vice presidents of the Wilson organization. And because we did spend so much money, he over half discounted our professional development. So the reason why the numbers would have looked markedly different had they not done that. But they saw that we had made an investment, and they knew that we were passionate about it and we wanted to do it right. So they helped us out with that.
Excellent. That's great to, maybe you should be in finance and a part of Michelle's team, Ms. Meyer's team. Excellent. And as we continue that train of thought process, anybody who's trained in the third grade foundations, can they do second and first and vice versa? Anybody in kindergarten, can they do first or second?
Well, we chose to do, because of the recommendation of the research company that is the Wilson Foundations program, we chose to do level 2 for both second grade and third grade. And the reason is because our kids have not grown up with this program from kindergarten on. We didn't want to confuse them with all the things that we're throwing at them. Plus, the foundations program in level 3 it increases in the rigor, and we'll certainly be able to still teach those words in the more difficult text. But to throw all of that at once on our kids and our teachers, we just it wasn't recommended through Wilson to do that. We certainly will launch into level 3 the following year, but our teachers were trained on like a 2-3 combination level, and so that they fully understood the program, and we didn't try to throw so many things at once that we kind of lost the reason.
Excellent. That's a good logic. I would encourage, as we move strategically as a district financially over the 3 and 5 year, if that's something we're going to do, we want to send that information to the budget team, and so that future governing boards can prioritize reading as a priority, and we have the funds allocated for that. which would lead me into my last question for that subject is tracking and the investment for HR. How are we tracking our teachers that have been trained, and if they move grade levels, are we losing that investment because they chose to go to third grade, or we need them in third grade and vice versa? What is the plan of action to track our teachers that have been trained and invested in?
Thank you for that question, Teja Martinez. We have a beautiful document that shows exactly who has been trained when. The great part about the Wilson Foundation is that there are so many pieces from level K to our level 3 that are similar, but they just build with rigor, that once a teacher is trained in K, they will be able to look and go through the program and feel familiar with any level. So luckily, we will be able to see who has been trained and then continue as years on, train any new teachers, and just continue as a PD standpoint to help build and grow once people do switch from one level to the next.
Excellent. And as we move forward and the board is presented with recommendations to approve on the district website where we're soliciting for new hires, if we can incorporate, foundations, an asterisk, that kind of solicitation that we are a foundations district, that may entice them that we have and will support them continuing forward on their education journey. Last thing, and this comes from personal experience. I started in this district in 2006, and the state has a mandate called Move On, Run Ready. And they require that we have a core program, and fundamentals and fundamentals falls under the supplemental. But the last time we adopted a core program was in 2006, which is Treasures. And I did go off to the the state website, and I'll pass it on, Ms. Underhill and Ms. Doan. It identifies that Treasures, Treasures is the last program that I recall, please correct me if I'm wrong, the last core program that we have adopted in our district, which is in 2006, and it's now 2019, and we have 13 years that our teachers across the district, I can't imagine that that core program is intact. And if you look at the state website, it also identifies that Treasures is the lowest evidencing level for offering a core program in our district. So with foundations being a supplemental program, what is our plan of action for offering our teacher support for our core program?
Ms. Teja Martinez, one of the things that I just talked to our team about today is that we are looking at going and bringing a committee together to look at what we need to do and next steps in possibly looking at an adoption for a core program. Certainly, we don't know if it would be K through 12 at this time or if it'd be a K3 or a 5-8 program. We would need to look, but we want to bring a group of educators together to develop a rubric of what our essential needs are and our must-haves in a program, and then from there facilitate a proposal out to see what companies would meet those needs, and then bring our committee back together to look at possibly doing a core reading adoption. And we know that financially we have to look at that as well, but that's certainly something that we've had many discussions, Dr. Bell especially, with about our Treasures program. We certainly have teachers that still use that and utilize that well, but you're absolutely right. It is something that has probably used its time, and we probably need to look at something else. And that's why we're really excited about the foundations materials and the phonics program, because students will be able to get those foundational reading skills and hopefully pick appropriate books at the library, and we want them reading those as well. So thank you for that comment.
Well, we look forward to that. Thank you for addressing that. And in the famous words, or the advice that we got at the opening from Ms. Sonia Manzano was, the more diverse your group is, the better outcome that you will have. So I look forward to seeing that.
Thank you.
Any more comments, Governing Board? Ms. Superintendent Linda Pellis-Thompson, anything you'd like to add?
Nothing except that I'm delighted that we have the program. I have a vested interest in a first grader who is really very, very excited to do all of the sounds and the movements. So appreciate the work you're doing.
thank you, all of you, for your hard work, and we encourage you to tell us what we can do to help support you on this process.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. 8.4, National Board Certified Teachers presentation. And we have a group, Ms. Hobbs, Ms. Ogino, Ms. Pulpertek, Ms. Grimscheid, Ms. Shaver.
We have a great group with us tonight. President Ceja Martinez, members of the governing board, we are excited to come before you this evening to provide you information on National Board Certified Teachers. Tonight, we will provide information about National Board and and provide some information about how we can collectively work together to increase the number of teachers that pursue the National Board Certified process here in Peoria. I'm joined here this evening, like you said, with Jan Ogino, Jennifer Pulbertrek, Melissa Grimscheid, and Melissa Shaver, and they're going to share their story and their journey on the National Board process.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Ceja Martinez, members of the board, Superintendent Pallas Thompson. We have up here, these are our certificate areas. So if you look at it and it says Jan Ogino, Early Childhood Generalist, that is her certificate under the National Board Certification through the National Board of Professional Teaching Standards. We have a lot of reasons why National Board would be good for PUSD, but I wanted to tell you kind of why I got into this. I am a physics teacher. I'm certified in both physics and math was my emphasis in college. I have a master's degree in physics, but when I started in a teacher leadership program through the Arizona Science Teachers Association, I was sent to a leadership seminar over the summer with, we're going to say, some heavy hitters of Arizona education, some people who write blog posts and do radio interviews, and people you see on the news all the time, these really great teacher leaders. And it was there that I met Beth Maloney, Dr. Beth Maloney, who teaches in the Dysart School District. And she is actually the person who I believe talked all four of us at separate times into doing National Board Certification. I kept hearing about this to the Arizona K-12 Center and kept hearing how it was kind of a deep, very reflective, very personal process of professional development. And it was something that intrigued me, and being a person who does not back down from a challenge, I figured this is just the challenge to take. And this is definitely a case of it's not the end, it's the journey that is important. And it's the journey of National Board Certification that really transformed the way that I interact with my students. We are all kind of taking turns at this, so I'm actually going to let Jan step up to the podium now.
Good evening, President Ceja Martinez, members of the board, Superintendent Pallas Thompson. These are the 5 core propositions. These are not just platitudes that we read to ourselves every day. These are what we live by every day. My story is very similar to Melissa's. I learned about National Board Certification actually through my association, AEA, and every time I would go to an AEA meeting and a leadership team meeting, they would all say that they were National Board Certified teachers when they introduced themselves, and I would be one of like a small handful, like about 3 out of, say, 50, who wasn't board certified. So that sort of piqued my interest a little bit, and then I went to a pre-candidacy session, a bunch of sessions, but pre-candidacy session, and I met Dr. Beth Maloney, who I basically kept telling her I was just too old to start this process, being in my late 50s and early 60s at the time. And she said, "You're never too old, Jan. You know, a good teacher is a good teacher no matter how old you are." But the 5 core propositions are really what I live by every day. And every once in a while, and unfortunately this year was one of those years where I have a group of students that was taught by a teacher who had to, a brand new teacher right out of college who had to take over a class of another brand new teacher right out of college. And she had no idea what it was like to teach in a classroom. And yesterday, I spent all day, literally all day, counseling these students, her particular students. The other fourth grade teacher's fantastic. But counseling the students and talking them out of telling themselves they were bad, and that's the reputation that they have. I live these 5 propositions. Number 1, teachers are committed to students and their learning. I'm committed to them, which meant I had to put down everything I had planned yesterday to be committed to them, to develop and start a new relationship with the teacher with them. And so National Board Certification isn't just letters I put at the end of my name. It's a commitment to students every day and to their growth and to their learning and to them as people. So thank you for allowing us to talk about National Board Certification. We are hoping to grow this, and it's not a program. President Marcelo Martinez, it's a really people-driven idea that all students deserve an accomplished teacher in the classroom. And we have a lot of accomplished teachers without board certification, but I would like to tell them that this is something they might need to pursue or should pursue. Thank you.
Sorry. If I can go to the next slide. Good evening, President Ceja Martinez, members of the board, and Ms. Pallas Thompson. I teach art and ceramics. When I was first drawn into this, I certified in 2010. My principal, I was at a different district, my principal was, hey, Jen, you should do this. I really didn't know what I was getting into, but I just dove in because they had an art section. And the thing about national boards that sets it apart from a lot of other programs, it does have math, it does have English. We do cover the core content that is tested often and that we are held accountable for, but it also covers CTE, which is important and really a driving factor in the Peoria Unified School District. It covers English as a new language. I've had students in my classroom that don't speak English. So it helps those kids and teachers who work with them as they're learning English. It covers exceptional needs specialists. We have a lot of exceptional needs students that deserve an accomplished teacher. It covers library and media. I have an avid reader in my household. He's in 6th grade in this district. Covers music, school counseling, things that aren't typically looked at when we do testing in the old days of Ames, Easy Merit, but things that develop the whole child that we need to have a good, strong education system.
So Board President Ceja Martinez and members of the board, Mrs. Pallas Thompson, I'm Melissa Shaver. I'm a 4th grade teacher here in Peoria. I've started my 27th year of teaching. I told my husband that this is my 44th first day of school yesterday, between kindergarten, college, first day of substitute teaching in another state, and then having my own classroom. So I am committed to continuing my learning and also to my students. This next slide is really a fantastic group of numbers for our state. We should be really proud of this information, especially given the place where we seem to land quite frequently is in the bottom 10% of many of the metrics that we use to value our teachers and value our students. I came to this process because my teacher friend next door, who was an exceptional needs specialist, dared me to try it, and I valued her judgment and her opinion, and I learned so many fantastic things from her about how to work with children that have special needs. I would constantly ask her advice, so we started together, and she actually has moved on to another district, and she is pursuing her administrative degree, but I value her opinion, and she roped me into it, and I was able to finish with Jan and Melissa the last couple years. The next slide, however, shows that we have some work to do in the Peoria Unified District.
So we have some work to do, but we have a great opportunity for some growth within Peoria. We chose to highlight some of the other unified school districts that are comparable to Peoria. You can see that we have 6. So right now, there are the 4 of us, plus Callie Kashat and Patricia Farley, as National Board Certified teachers within our district, about 1 for every 6,000 students. My goal is to make that at least 60. So that would mean we'd have 10 times, but it would also mean that we would reach nationally, we would reach 3%, which is about nationally 3% of teachers are National Board Certified. Our goal is to start generating some growth and raise some momentum, to use a physics term, I have to use that physics term in there, and to spread some awareness within our district. I know the first time I heard about National Board Certification was not at a district event, it was an AZ K-12 Center event, and I had never heard of it before. So I want to make sure, personally, that there are not teachers in this district that don't know that it exists for them. And when I say teachers, I do need to, as Jen said, it does include counselors and library media techs, which is fantastic to have something for them because they are very important to our students, and they are people who teach our students every single day.
Okay, so going through this process, there are pre-candidacy courses that are offered. That is a 1-year course. Melissa and I will be running those courses this year. They will be offered on Modified Mondays. This is an introduction through the National Board Certified process. It goes over the components. It's a very reflective practice. There are, after teachers complete this professional development, they can earn scholarship money for doing National Board Certification.
It's an opportunity for them to understand what type of commitment they're not just making for the next few years, but also the commitment that they're making in terms of an educator and a learner themselves. So we have materials that the AZ K-12 Center is providing for us. They have provided hours and hours and hours of training for us. We are committed to offering this training at no cost to the district during a time where teachers are already wanting to examine their own personal growth and professional development. So this really is a good fit to get the momentum started in our district.
So this outlines the 4 components. There are 4 components that go into this process that we do cover in the pre-candidacy class.
It's important to note these 4 components are distinct areas of our profession that are also assessed. It's important to know that this is a very rigorous process. It really is not about jumping through hoops. It's not about checking off a checklist. It is about deeply self-reflective learning as an individual, as a professional. I think it gives merit to our profession. It allows me to network with other professionals that have the ultimate highest regard for learning and for their students, that they model for their students and their peers as an ongoing process for them. It is extremely personal, and it's very difficult, but it's extremely rewarding.
And each of these components is tailored to meet the needs of the 25 different certificate areas and the different age levels from 4 to 21.
So just as an example, I've learned to recognize what we call attention-seeking behaviors in my classroom, and I've changed the name of that attention-seeking to relationship-seeking behaviors. And once I changed my mindset, my classroom began to run completely differently. And I was reflective about that yesterday at the first day of school, and today when I had a student that put his head down, was completely upset, and I thought, you know what, we don't need to do this activity, we need to have a personal conversation. where I get to know this child a little bit better. And so I've gone from a very traditional background to a much more constructivist approach to teaching. So here's our progress that we've made so far in our district. And when a national board teacher shares this process with his or her peers, it's valuable. It gives that peer this idea that I can do that. If you can do that and you're here to support me, I can do that. And I think it's important for us to recognize that we have a large amount of master teachers in our district who are eager and looking for some type of professional development that is more than information, but that's meaningful to them personally. And then that will affect their professional development in terms of content or delivery of instruction. I think they go hand in hand and are supporting of one another. So this is about the art of teaching, not the science of teaching.
So here are our goals. We want to be able to compete with other school districts in the areas of attraction, growth, and retention of accomplished teachers. All of us have been trained by the Arizona K-12 Center, which meant that we were introduced to teachers who are nationally board certified from all over the valley. And I can tell you from my personal interactions with most of them, they stay put. Once they're board certified, they remain in their districts, so their districts were able to retain them, and they also become leaders in their districts. So they either become leaders in their buildings, in their district, or sometimes, for some of us, we do work on the state level. And so it's important to know that national board certified teachers generally, once they're board certified, stay within their district, which means we have the opportunity then to retain the teachers that we have certified, or that have certified while they were working for us. And now we can grow the mindset of achieving national board certification, because that mindset has to have a seed, it has to have a beginning. So Melissa Germscheid and I will be leading a year-long PLC called Smart Start, where we're going to start with our very newest teachers that have come out of teaching college and begin to plant the seeds of the mindset of a national board certified teacher. So when I showed you the 5 core propositions, the 5 core propositions are the basis of the curriculum that we're writing to help these teachers get a good start on how to develop relationships with their students, how to get to know them, not just academically, but personally. Because that relationship you have with the student all year long, that's more than just exchanging information between two people. That is a relationship of trust. So we'd like to build the infrastructure then to support candidates, which means that we could certainly use some financial help in terms of helping to pay for training that the K-12 Center offers or AEA offers. We'd also need to know that the district can always give us a place for this training, a place and a time, and have, we were able to go to new teacher orientation where at least we could have some of the new teachers come to our table and ask us what certification is about. Because if they came from another state or they came from another district, they might have heard something about it, but just did not have a chance to dive deep or get to know anybody that was related to NBC, to the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards. So that's where we'd like to go. So we could certainly use some financial support. We could use some curricular support, but those are our goals.
So if we could, we would love to take your questions.
Well, thank you very much, all of you, especially being the first week of school and spending time here at a governing board meeting. If you don't mind, governing board, I'll go ahead and start. I have asked for this conversation, so have others. start the dialogue. As governing board members, we've been to the National School Board Association conference in Chicago, and they have spoken and had the booths. So I wanted to hear more, as well as the many opportunities I've had to observe the students and interact with them, and the outcomes and the dialogues that I have definitely caught my attention. I want to take just a brief moment to address the article that I identified earlier, the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development. It stated, just to reiterate, to keep our new teachers that are 1 to 5 years. There were 3 things. I mentioned 2, and there was one more, that an administrator also provide professional networks to encourage and create strong relationships and mentors across the district. So it's great to hear that we as a district have started this program and having teacher leaders in moving in the right direction. You've highlighted to the board some things that we should consider moving forward. How is it going to impact budget? Where are we going to take that money from? And that is something this board should consider during a study session. I reviewed this presentation and have had some dialogue, and it's great that we're building morale. It is building that expertise community, but the one voice or the one direct impact, and I was wondering where it was in this presentation, is how does it impact our students? How are you measuring that? So it's great that they feel good and that they're engaging conversation. I would hope to see a metric of attendance or even AP test scores from the physics, which I know we just have the state pass, you get more funds. So what direction have you received from the district administration to measure success? Or Ms. Homs, what have you identified that are measurements of success that we are looking forward to as we move forward? So either one can take that.
Well, one of the things, being somebody who has worked on AZ Merit is a good test for deep knowledge about stuff, but it doesn't test any of the soft skills. It tests, their inferencing ability, their problem-solving ability in terms of a written problem, but it doesn't test their soft skills. And a lot of what a National Board Certified teacher does is teach soft skills, because it's not just the hard skills that a student needs to know. And in fact, if you talk to any business person out there, any company that's hiring somebody, they don't really want students graduating from high school without any soft skills. They got the hard skills down, but the soft skills they don't. And it's kind of woven into the certification process. When I did work through my components, one of the biggest things that I had to work on is how do I develop these relationships with students and teach them in ways in which they are critically thinking and creatively thinking about what they're learning. And it takes building that relationship to do that. So I would say that it's not just hard skills we have to look as a metric on, but how can we measure soft skills? Because I do believe that board certified teachers, because they work on their own soft skills, also transfer a lot of work and soft skills with students as well. I know it's not always measured, and I don't know how to measure it, to be totally honest with you. Having worked on AZ Merit, I know they don't measure that. But it's also valuable. And this year in PD, we talk a lot about rigor. That's exactly what rigor is. Rigor is soft skills. So I know there's a way we can probably measure it, but I don't have the answer for you yet.
Well, that's a great segue to our Ms. Homs, because we have an evaluation tool that measures teachers on soft skills. So what insight should we look for measuring hard and soft for this program?
Well, certainly grit and perseverance, because when students are given a task that's more difficult, sometimes, the easy thing would be to say, oh, I can't do this and give up. But to continually strengthen that perseverance in our kids to try new and difficult things, certainly creative and creative thinking and having them think outside the box. One of the beautiful things about our science and our new science standards is we don't give them all the answers or even tell them what the necessarily what the end result is. We have them figure that out through a process, and students have to be able to work and think creatively and collectively and be able to collaborate with their peers in order to come up with the ultimate learning target or the learning that needs to happen in that. So certainly you give us pause for thought on ways to measure. I agree wholeheartedly with Mrs. Ogino that it is sometimes hard to measure that. It's easy to look at a test score and because that is measurable and you can see that, and those are what we look at and those are what's published in the paper. But can our students go out and persevere in college and with rigorous things that come their way and be able to think creatively and those kind of things, and be able to even something as simple as shaking someone's hand and looking them in the eye and those kind of things. So, you give us pause for thought. That's something we'll continue to look at and look for ways. And certainly if the governing board has some suggestions, we'd be open to hearing those as well.
I appreciate you acknowledging that. I would even consider Dr. Davidson sends out the employee survey that we consider some kind of school climate metric that we could incorporate to identify those those in the National Board Certification program process measure differently than those who are not participating in that. So that would be a point of measurement. Another evidence would be parent verbatims. The relationships that you speak to, you would hope would translate to the communication and the relationship that you have with the parents as well. And then I know talking test scores is sensitive, and to Ms. Aguino's point, you are correct. Being on an interview board, I look for, can somebody communicate or articulate their thought process? But also in the real world, we also take certifications and standardized tests to become CPAs, CFOs, CDL drivers, other things. So we cannot discount the importance of taking a standardized test, and giving our children the skill set to take those should result in all the things that you have just described. So going forward, as we continue to grow this network of professionalism, what are those quantitative measurements that we can say it is working or it's not working or we need to monitor and adjust? For me, that's what I wanted to hear, is how are we supporting our brand-new teachers so they don't leave us? And we have a group of master teachers, and I'm assuming the board supports a stipend, but I'm assuming we're not paying you for their volunteer work to lead this group. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay. That would be something the board, I would like to consider in the budget committee going forward, and how we strategically plan to support and build professional networks for our teachers. So thank you for that insight. I don't have any more questions. I've heard a lot. And Ms. Underhill.
Well, thank you very much, because I have to be honest, I had a very different, I didn't really have much understanding about what the national certification was about, but I really thought it was very content focused. So as an elementary teacher, I never really thought about it. I was like, well, that's probably for those high school science and math teachers. So this has been really amazing to me to learn about this and this opportunity, and I'm actually kind of stunned that we don't have more folks that are engaged, but maybe it's perception, I guess my question, I have a couple, is, what are the barriers? So what are the barriers to getting people, you all said someone kind of pulled you in and, you had, someone kind of lead you there. So what do you think would be some of the barriers for additional teachers to join this?
That's a great question. I'm going to say the first one would be cost. Those 4 components cost $495 a piece. So by offering pre-candidacy in the district, one, we're saving them money because to go outside to the K-12 center would cost them, it's nominal, but it's still a cost. It would cost them some money to do that, and we're offering that for free during their professional time. So that is the savings. By completing the pre-candidacy, they then are eligible for scholarships. The K-12 Center has received funding, has grants that they have kept in perpetuity, kept going so that they could, for me, they sponsored 2 of my components, so that cut the cost in half. AEA also offers scholarships for that. So there is a cost factor there, and that is one of the things that we go over in pre-candidacy. The second one would be time. It is those 4 components. 1 is a content area test. 3 are like, I would compare them to the action research project I had to do for my master's degree, and you're doing 3 of them. So 3 of them require really diving deep into your instruction, seeing how it affects your students. So right there's some measures within your own personal classroom that for the one on differentiation, for me, I looked at 2 students and how I differentiated my instruction for them and how it affected them, and they were able to make some changes within a unit. One of them requires you to film your class twice, which is a great practice to get into, but it's a little daunting to do that and watch yourself. For me, it's listening to myself on video. People don't want to do that, but it was one of the best professional development experiences to watch myself in film. And then the last one is a great one, and it's actually one of the newer components that Jan and I started a different process, and Melissa as well, than Jen did. And this last one is more of as a reflective practitioner, and it does have those keys, those ties with community. So we talked about how we use database decision-making, our work in professional learning communities, how we reach out to parents and community members. So it's a lot of work for that. So that time is a huge issue. It is very helpful that we have worked in that time for pre-candidacy with our modified Mondays, and also have done some coaching to those 2 candidates. And we just found out 4 candidates. We have 2 teachers who completed. I just found out yesterday, so our presentation was actually not complete. We have a music teacher and an EA, early adolescence English language art teacher, that are going to be joining us in the candidacy process this year. So we have 4 instead of 2.
That's great. So as far, cost and time. So in relation to that, so as far as incentive to become a part of the program, I should know, I don't know this, but as a district, are there credits related? Do you get a pay bump like you do for taking professional, coursework in the community?
We do get we receive a yearly stipend as a National Board Certified teacher. The stipend is great. The teacher leadership opportunities that personally that I've had, even just outside the district and within the district, have been phenomenal.
Okay. And as far as like qualifying for state, as we always have to go and recertify and that kind of thing, does that play a role in keeping up your certification and that kind of thing?
It can. On the certification application through the ADE, it is one of the lines you can use National Board Certification. It's a reciprocity issue. So we did have some people come in through new teacher and like, oh, I learned about this in my last state. This would be really good. Yes, it would be really good. It helps you cross state. We don't want them to leave, but it does help with that reciprocity. We have to recertify every 5 years. So we could, through some of this, receive some of those professional development hours that we need for our certification application.
Okay, great. And then just as far as outreach, so you're telling us about it now, and you were at the new teacher orientation. Have we looked at utilizing like some of our internal resources? Like we have such a fabulous media, program here, and I was wondering also, Melissa, were you able to use our media resources in filming your classroom? But have we thought about potentially putting together like, a segment that could be put out on our internal, email and that kind of thing?
A commercial? Yeah. We've been talking about that. When filming my classroom, it was done in an iPad in one hand that would turn around. Probably gave someone vertigo watching it. Yes, we've been talking about that. CNI now has swivels that we can use for our candidates who are filming their classrooms this year, and we have been talking about getting some media presence somehow. Now that there are fully 4 of us who are working very actively at this, we'll be doing some more outreach this year.
Right. And then just, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I would encourage that be part of your 2019-20 as a branding initiative and a goal, your mission, your purpose, that be included for 2019-20.
Because I could.
Good one.
Good question, because if you notice the Arizona numbers are really good, that is largely due to the Arizona K-12 Center and their marketing and branding of National Board Certification.
That's awesome. Oh, the last question I have is just, have we had any crossover with the Peoria Education Foundation in regard to this being a potential opportunity, for teachers as far as scholarships or professional development, some, the grants that we go for, et cetera? I don't know. Just curious.
We have not, but that is an excellent idea to look into, so thank you.
All right, great. But yeah, again, thank you for, just like I say, the education has been huge to me, and I think it would be for a lot of my, former colleagues, just because I know in my brain what I thought it was like not a fit, But now I feel like it really, really would be. So I appreciate it, and I hope we can help in whatever way we can to get the word out. So thank you.
And Ms. Stone.
Oh, I don't really have a lot. Thank you for the presentation. I mean, I got a lot of my questions answered already, so thank you. And I really had no idea what the difference was with the National Board Certification, so this was very informative, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and good luck for this school year. Please let us know how we can do more. All right, 8.5, first reading of recommended changes to the Peoria Unified School District Policies JFAB, tuition admission of non-resident students, JFAA, admission of resident students.
Good
Dr.
evening.
Reynolds.
Good evening again. President Sehal Martinez, Governing Board, Ms. Palace Thompson, Cabinet and guests. Tonight we bring to you, as you mentioned, for a first reading, 2 changes to existing Governing Board policies JFAA and JFAB. The changes we bring to you are largely based on changes to existing laws. As you can see, the changes to each policy are very similar and deal specifically with students who are experiencing homelessness, also our military families, and the proof of residency that we are permitted to use when enrolling children. You've had a chance to review those policies. This is the first read, and I am prepared to take any questions or comments that you may have.
Ms. Stone, do you have any questions?
Well, I had familiarized myself with this previously, and it doesn't look like, it looks like you get into a little more detail, but the intent has remained more or less the same.
That's
So-
exactly right. If you draw your attention to some of the very simple changes for homeless students as well as our military families, and what we are allowed to use as proof of residency.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Underhill? And I do not as well.
Thank you so much. I look forward to approval at the next meeting.
Thank you very much. Moving on to 9, informational reports. 9.1, report and discussion on local, state, federal legislative issues and activities. Ms. Myers. No, it's not. We can't hear you.
Take 2. There we are. Good evening again. I am happy to report that Phoenix leads the nation for new jobs. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, from May of 2018 to May of 2019, the Phoenix metropolitan area showed the largest non-farm job growth of all metropolitan statistical areas in the nation. In fact, 66,500 positions were added, which equates to 3.2% growth. This is the largest of any metropolitan statistical area with a population of over 1 million residents. The areas that showed the most growth were construction, health and education services, and professional, and close to my heart, business services. These numbers are notable in addition to Arizona ranking 4th in the United States for gross domestic product growth, 4th for population growth, 3rd for economic momentum, and 2nd for personal income growth. So we have a strong economy. In addition, Arizona is also expected to add another 165,000 new jobs by 2020.
Thank you. 9.2, Budget, Facilities, Planning, and Construction. The report can be seen on our website. 9.3, Report on Upcoming Meetings and Events. Governing Board, we do have a board retreat on August 17th. I do want to highlight the time frame is at 8 o'clock in the morning. We're having Dr. Joel Stevens come in, and he has a plane that he needs to take shortly after. So we will start at 8 o'clock sharp. Do we have a location yet? Oh, it's going to be here? Okay. I do see the location, but I didn't know if we changed it. Okay. Any other events that we need to highlight? Grand opening ceremony, August 12th. What time is that at? 9 o'clock in the morning? Okay. So August 12th, Governing Board, you are welcome to attend. August 12th at 9 o'clock in the morning. And there is a holiday around the corner. We're ready for vacation. Moving forward, thank you very much. Anything else, Ms. Airy? Okay. Number 10.1, Board Member Opportunity to readdress any items. Ms. Underhill? Ms. Down? Okay. And 10.2, Draft Agenda for the August 22nd. And then 10.3, Request for Agenda Items for Future Governing Board Meetings. Ms. Underhill? Ms. Doan? I only have one. The Governing Board in the past has asked to discuss Title I funding. I would like an opportunity to see if the Governing Board would like to put a committee of the board, and we strategically create a committee to review our Title I funding within our district and how we spend those funds and allocate those resources. I just need a second if somebody, does that make sense?
I'm sorry, do you want to discuss developing a committee, or you want?
Yes, so I just want an opportunity to discuss it, and then if we choose not to go down that route, then we won't. But if we do, then we'll follow up action. Does that make sense? So and we can discuss that at a study session. We can't go into deep. I just need the opportunity to discuss that item if we want to have a discussion.
Okay. I'll second.
Thank you. That is the only item. All right. 11.1, adjournment. I need a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
I second that. We'll do all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. I think it's 2 hours on the dot.